we're back for another episode. The theme of this season, as everyone should know by now, is the business foundations. Yes, we are harping on about it again, and we're going to continue harping on about it because it's just important. And our lovely guest for today is one of Sammy's clients who recently showed just what can happen when you focus on that really boring foundation of SEO. And we're going to talk about that more in a minute. Because she was such a success story and is such a lovely person, we really wanted you to hear from her. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So a little bit about Laura, if you don't know her already. Laura is a London-based calligraphy artist and teacher who helps people tap into their inner creative, find a space to calm their busy lives and to reconnect, whether that's with themselves or with others. She offers public workshops, private one-to-one lessons, and private calligraphy parties to help people get creative. Laura loves sharing the calming art of brush pen calligraphy and lettering styles, so you can create beautiful designs for a range of themes and projects. Her thing is helping you step away from the busyness of life by getting creative and dropping into a calming flow state with just a pen. Laura is also the co-founder of the Small Business Hive and co-host of the Small Business Hive podcast.
Fellow podcaster in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a pro now. I know exactly how to deal with this. Yeah.
Oh, we're so glad you're here.
It's lovely to be here.
Obviously, I know lots about your business, but probably be quite nice to tell us or tell our listeners really like how Laura Letter's life and your calligraphy business came about.
Yes. So the backstory is I worked at the Royal Albert Hall. So I was there for 13 years, actually. And I was producing events. I didn't start producing events. I actually started as a box office assistant and kind of slowly moved my way into the kind of back of house work and then eventually through to programming, which was really, really exciting because it was a very creative role. And the more I got into the programming of events, the more exciting it got. However, the longer the hours got as well. And so I did a part-time role when I had my first son. And then when I went back to work after having my second son, I went back into full-time work, and it was a lot. It was a lot. Some of the days were really long, 16-hour day shifts and things. But actually, ultimately, I did feel a little bit disconnected from seeing my children, especially as my second child was only 5 months old when I went back to work. So they were teeny tiny babies, and I think I was missing big chunks of who they were and how they were growing up. Alongside that, though, there was sort of lots of spiraling news stories, which I really struggled with. It was in a sort of short amount of time. So I think that bubble burst of kind of stress, anxiety, worrying about what I've done by bringing two children into this absolute chaos of a world. And my mental health dipped massively. And I think it was the first time that I really hit a patch that I couldn't cope with. And so I was signed off work. And one of the things alongside CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, which really supported me, and having lots of people to talk to as well. But for me, there was this, I guess, need for something. There was this pendulum swing of kind of work and home life. And then I had sort of slowly disappeared as that third kind of tripod leg. I didn't really have a thing. I used to write poetry, so I sort of started doing a little bit of that. And a friend had said, look, you're actually quite a creative person. Why not go and do something creative? Just learn something new and see how you get on with it. And she happened to send me a series of calligraphy workshops, which I went and did. And that was my first taste. That was in 2017. I kind of, when I felt comfortable enough and my anxiety was bearable, I got out the house, went over to East London, terrified of doing anything on my own, but sat in a room of other people. And the nice thing was, it was sort of just a single focus activity. So I was just looking at making lines on paper, listening to the instructions, learning some of the techniques. And I didn't really think much more of it. I really enjoyed it, took all the kit home. And what I discovered was it sort of became a little bit of a sanctuary. So the boys would go to sleep. I had that sort of 2 hours, which previously was like, oh God, all I've got is 2 hours. And it suddenly became, got 2 whole hours to do something. And I have something to do in those 2 hours, which is calligraphy. And so I just practiced. And actually, I was looking through some of my old calligraphy this morning. It was very nostalgic. And yeah, it's amazing to see how far you can come when you practice something quite regularly, which is what I did. And then people started to say, oh, I'm getting married. Could you do my place cards and invitations and things? So I had a few little jobs here and there. But I had also got really, really into the whole well-being arena, specifically in the workplace. So kind of championed getting a well-being committee together at the Royal Albert Hall, started kind of speaking to other organizations about how they looked after their workforce from that perspective, and the kind of preventative side rather than the kind of reactive side, like just a phone number on a kitchen notice board isn't really doing it for a lot of us. And I guess being quite open and happy to talk about my experience meant that other people were starting to come forward, and we started to introduce mental health champions and things. So this whole world became fascinating to me. It was like the psychology side without having to do the degree. I just wanted to soak it all up. So there was this massive passion around well-being, and I decided to, after a long kind of decision process, I decided to leave the hall and did a freelancing role with a wellbeing company. And just as I left, lockdown hit. So it was, I think it was a timed, it was a good thing really in reflection, because actually what it meant was I was launched quite quickly into, I could start running online workshops and just seeing what the uptake is and things. So started doing my business kind of as a side hustle. Just as this is something I really love. I started doing products and making a little shop. I got really super carried away with the whole thing.
It's not like you, Laura.
I know, ideas everywhere, trying, but that soon became something that I moved away from, and then had another freelancing role. So there was a couple of freelancing roles alongside my business, which I then decided to rebrand as Laura Letters Life. So I had been called the Poetry Mum for a long time, thinking that was my calling. I was going to become this poet with all my deep inside thoughts. And but actually it turns out that calligraphy was becoming more and more exciting. And that just, I think I just happened to catch that wave of people wanting to learn new things, that online kind of just kind of movement of things happening. And the calligraphy world as well was becoming really quite popular. So people wanting to learn lettering, and lots of Etsy businesses, which I just joined in with really. And then learned that actually the shop isn't, the products weren't really what I wanted to do. I loved teaching calligraphy. So when lockdown lifted, I started doing in-person workshops, and then officially went full-time with my business beginning of last year, 2023. So I wasn't doing any more freelancing for anybody else, and I could focus wholeheartedly on my business. So I'm not even sure what the question was now.
How did it begin? And you've
Have I covered that?
very well. Yeah.
I'll stop there.
Tick, done. Did you make the connection early on about the mindful part? Because what I love about obviously the way you position calligraphy is that mindful element of sit down, take a breath, drop the shoulders, you know, and have something to focus on that really kind of helps calm the mind. Obviously, that was part of your journey. Was that kind of embedded into the very beginnings of teaching other people calligraphy? Or did that come a bit later on, that actually there's this really strong mindful element that actually other people appreciate as much as I did?
No, what's interesting was I think because it was such a massive benefit to me, like it really, really got me to slow down. It really, really got me to disconnect in a healthy way, as in I couldn't think about everything else whilst I was doing calligraphy. So it was like a meditative state which I just dropped into, and it was a really lovely space to be in, whether it was 5 minutes or the full 2 hours that I could drift off into. But I was really, really keen to share that. And actually my first ever calligraphy workshop that I did with some friends and family, I just sort of put it out there, like, anyone want to join this? And I'd called it Mindful Calligraphy, which has sort of come full circle, because between that and where I am now, I had gone off in all sorts of different directions. I was like, oh, people don't really care about the mindfulness. I'm going on about it, but I think everybody else probably just wants to learn, you know, really, really good calligraphy, and it's all about the kind of technical side of it, and I should be focusing on that. And actually what I realized was that is important, and I do teach those things, but the mindfulness side is such an important part of it, and I think actually such a massive benefit to people. And the people that I want to work with are those people who do have really, really busy minds or busy lives, or feel the chaos more than others, or get really overwhelmed, really struggle with anxiety. And this is such a helpful tool just to have in your arsenal. It's not even about creating something for other people. It's just being able to put something down on paper, put pen to paper, and not be perfect, and just make marks and enjoy it. And then, you know, you can start to build up to projects and making lovely birthday cards for people and creating all these other things. But I think for me, yeah, there's these two wonderful worlds that kind of collide together with the mindfulness and the calligraphy.
I guess, well, I suppose we talk about how we met and how we've all come together. I guess it was in trying to grow your business that you were obviously looking for ways to do that and support. And so our mutual friend, Vicky Schilling, who seems to come up in almost every episode, season 3, here she is again. Like, we have a lot to be thankful to you for. She connects good people, so there we go. What can we say? So yeah, I think you did one of her was it a challenge or a core?
It was the core program in its first iteration. So
yeah.
it was 7 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe 12 weeks, but it was the business program that I really needed. You know, I hadn't run my own business before, and joining that and having known Vicky very, very tentatively from our previous worlds before then, you know, it's amazing how the dots connect, isn't it? So she used to work with orchestras, and I used to book her orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall. So had very loosely kept an eye on what she'd been doing as she drifted into the world that she was going into. And yeah, it just came at that really, really crucial moment where I needed to take my business forward, but didn't have any real business sense. That's
Yeah,
not
like how to build a business. I mean, it's not
I mean,
something
I can have the enthusiasm all the way. I am an enthusiastic business owner for sure, but and the creativity, but actually there were some foundations missing, which yeah, Vicky in that program really, really gave me. And meeting you through there was a moment I'll never forget.
No, it was definitely one of those kind of kindred spirit moments, and hearing your story I relate to very much, because I had a pretty similar experience in terms of, you know, struggling with mental health in my corporate job and actually looking for a creative outlet. And I was doing bits of origami and stuff to get me out of a really dodgy spot, and started making my own wrapping paper. And, you know, obviously I've got that artistic background, and so our kind of world sort of seemed quite similar in that sense. And then obviously being like small business owners as well, it's nice to start connecting with other people that are on the same journey as you. So I guess when we started working together way back in summer of 22,
Yeah.
kind of where were you at that point? What did your sort of business look like? What did you need my help with?
Yeah. So 22 was my year of trying everything, which is funny in hindsight because that's really what I do the whole time. But intentionally, I was just saying yes to everything, giving it a go, trying to make sense of what worked and what didn't. I was launching courses and workshops and all sorts of things, and just seeing what stuck. And I think I was at a point where it was kind of coming through quite chaotically in my messaging. So I had built my own website. I'd learned the ropes with Squarespace and and Etsy, and you know, got so far as to sort of linking things through, and kind of not scared of the technology or anything like that. But what I struggled with was the clarity around the kind of customer journey and the pages and the navigation of when I can see it from my perspective, but I think what happens in my brain was actually just sort of being presented in a website. And that's kind of what I didn't want people to. I want them to see me, obviously, but I don't want, you know, everything vomited on them as soon as they clicked on my website, for lack of a better word. So I wanted somebody to kind of come and scoop up all the really good bits and make sense of it and then make it look good. And yeah, having met you and really, really wanting to just work with people who got me, people who understood where I was coming from, and people who didn't appear to be like me, which was somebody calm and relaxed and, you know, really diligent and kind of able to see through all the sort of chaos that I had and the excitement. I just needed somebody to sort of rein it all in, which is exactly what you did. And yeah, it was really, really helpful. I mean, and it was above and beyond that, really. I think one of our first calls was supposed to be about a 15-minute call. It went on for about 3 hours. So you really held my hand. I got a very good deal that year. But I've stuck with you because it stays with you. And I made a promise to myself when I started my business that I was only going to work with lovely people and people who got what I was doing. And yeah, you ticked that box massively.
Oh, thank you. I think you made like such an important point of that kind of clarity piece, and as you say, with kind of the business foundations, which is why we wanted to do a whole series on, because I think, you know, there is definitely that point where you're experimenting, what works, what doesn't work. Like I think everybody has to go through that stage, because how else do you learn? but that kind of, it gets to a point in a way, doesn't it, where you can only grow your business so far unless you've got that clarity in place, really, of how to channel things properly and actually have that clear messaging come across, whether
Yeah.
it's your words and your website navigation, and, you know, kind of, and just your own kind of business plan, really, isn't it? Like, of
Yeah.
the different workshops, and actually how does, you know, how do they work? What do I enjoy? What's profitable? You know, you kind of start having these buckets of putting things into.
Yeah. And how do the right people find the right bits of your business? So when you are running a kind of multi-service business, or have different things to offer, I think sometimes you get very caught up in, oh, but they need to see this, but they need to see that, but what if they also want to see this? And, you know, so you kind of trip over yourself and end up kind of double guessing and almost just getting so confused by it yourself. You just think, oh, I can't do this anymore. But it's also about letting go of control, because I had to that point being like, this is mine. I know where to click. I know how to close. I know how to get in. I know to, you know, so it is handing over something that you have created, whether you're happy with it or not, and going, okay, go and do something with it. So I think there's got to be that trust element there, but that knowledge that that person is gets where you're going, because you feel like you're the only one who really knows your business. I think that's the other thing. So you're the one who has built it to this point, and, you know, well, is Sammy going to understand that, you know, but if I, you know, ask for this and I want that and I've told them this, and I, you know, and you do, and you got it straight away. I mean, the 3 hours that we spent talking about it probably helped, but
Yeah,
it
I knew what
was,
you was trying to achieve.
yeah, and more. You know, I was doing that program where we met, but and it was really useful. There were lots of practical things, but you still got to take that next step. You've still got to apply it in some way. And I always get to that point of like, yeah, okay, theoretically, I know what I need to do. You know, I've written down who my ideal client is. I know the things that I want to put in place. I know this, I know that. And then it's that getting to that next point, the actual operating systems, the functionality, right? How does that customer actually book your service or book that workshop or book? And ultimately, you're not really running your business on your own. You know, you have got social media, you know, other channels, suppliers, customers, friends, people advising you, website designers, copywriters, you know, they are all there. It's whether you tap into them or not. And I think that my single best kind of thing that I've ever done in my business, and I say this 1,000 times, is booking you. I knew I needed a tissue.
God, I didn't know this was going to be such a sappy
No,
episode.
sorry, I'm getting totally emotional. Yeah.
Oh, it's hard to know what to say after that. Thank you. Well, obviously it was absolute joy working with you, and as someone who's so passionate about helping good people and good businesses get out into the world, I think it was that obviously initially it was kind of looking at how to structure and that user journey, and how to make sense of things. And obviously kind of once I got into the back end of the website, it was kind of a bit like, okay, yeah, there's things to tidy up. And then it was kind of like, there's all these opportunities of how we can maximize it. And I think, you know, that's not something you know how to do. That's not something that comes naturally. And obviously when your business gets to a certain point, then you can start to kind of really optimize things once you know what you're doing, who you're targeting. And obviously one of the things, you know, obviously is how to get people to find you, to find the workshops. And obviously you're based in London, you're in Chiswick area, and running those live workshops. And so that was when the SEO piece, I think, came in, of like, actually, we can do quite a bit more here to try and get you found more in organic search, and being a bit more strategic with what you've got here.
Yeah. And throughout that process, you know, the website is your front facing everything, isn't it? It's your digital footprint, it's your business card, it's your, you know, where people go to find you. And if the second they click on your website, something is clunky or difficult, we've all been there. We just don't stay on it. We drift off. And so it needed something. It needed some TLC, but it needed the structure and the joy. That's what I get told so much when people go on my website. You know, they're not even interested in what I'm doing. They're just like, oh, can I just say, I love your website. I'm like, yes, but book a workshop. No, I don't. But it's lovely that is exactly what I want people to feel. You know, they immediately click on the homepage and they get exactly who I am and what my business is about. And they don't leave it because it's a nice place to be. And I think you're right in terms of that next phase that I needed, because I'd grown from an online audience. That was where kind of the lockdown had given me, you know, online workshops, but people were outside of London, outside of like my local area. So then when I started doing in-person ones, suddenly this shift of, okay, well, the online audience is big, but not big, but is wide, but I can't invite all of these lovely people who want to carry on working with me into London, you know, every month or every few months to come and do a workshop with me. So suddenly my in-person audience is relatively small, and it was, you being able to identify that actually we need to pump that kind of SEO through so that reaches the audience that I need to get to come physically in person to workshops and be able to increase that traffic alongside working out which other kind of streams of income or clients and how I wanted to work. And that mindset shift of being like, what does everybody want? Let's try everything. People aren't really responding to that. Maybe I'll do this. And so I didn't really have a focus and my messaging wasn't clear. So, but actually going through the process with you meant that it was a total kind of detox of the business. A massive clarity piece. And just, it doesn't mean that that's the only way I'm going to ever run the business, or that it can't evolve, or that it hasn't evolved in the time that we've been working together as well. 17 colorways and palettes later that I throw at you. But you know, it's it could be a really exciting journey when you're doing it with somebody else. I think it's just my other thought. You know, you're not just sat there going, I don't know. I don't know which font I should be using for this, or is that heading? I don't even know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough going on already, isn't there, in your business? So having that support and connection with someone else is an important piece. Well, hence you set up the Hive. I mean, it's what the Hive's all about. What has that meant for you since we did that work together? How has that impacted your business? I mean, obviously we've worked together in a few different stints and we've been looking at SEO for a bit now, but
well, I think firstly, the nice thing about working with you is that I'm not just handing it over to you and you do everything. You actually give a really clear description of everything that you're doing in sort of layman terms, so that I totally understand. And kind of like the SEO, like Lee said earlier, it's kind of like that can be really boring if you're not into it, or you don't get it, or it's just, why do I need to do it? You know, all of that starts to come in. You're like, I just want to make calligraphy and keep people happy. But as soon as you explain it in, its impact, its importance, it's the, the potential it gives you, suddenly it can be creative, it can be really interesting. If you love a bit of statistics, then it's super exciting. And so I think for me, the journey hasn't just been, right, now I've got a website designer who does my website. I just give to them, they do it all. I know lots of business owners that do, and they want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. But actually, I do feel like I know my website. I can still go in there and I'm not going to break anything most of the time, because you've taught me along the way. It is a journey that we're doing together. I can tweak things with making sure I don't press the wrong things, but it's having that confidence that it's still mine. It's still I'm still in it. I'm still in part of the website, and my words are in there. My images, my photos, my energy is still coming through that website. And I think that's really important. That isn't the answer to your question. The answer to your question is lots of work. Lots of lovely new clients have come my way, which actually you just don't know. You can buy into something, you can book something, you can bring on somebody to help you with marketing, you can buy a course, you can do all these things, but ultimately you don't know what the impact is going to be until you've done it.
There's no guarantees.
Yeah, it's really hard to see, and you can never know what's going to work. But I was so impressed. It was almost scary, wasn't it? In the first kind of, within the month, there was new inquiries coming through. Now I get 2 new inquiries a week, depending on different months. It can be higher or lower. People are finding my workshops, people are joining my mailing list, and I'm not doing actively, I mean, obviously I'm actively promoting them, but they tend to find me through the website, or I'm coming up on Google, or most cases when I ask clients where they found me, they go, oh, I just Googled calligraphy London or calligrapher London, and that SEO is doing its job. It is, smashing it out there. So I think the SEO and the auditing and just the presence, and you explaining Google Analytics and Google My Business, and just prompting me to do the bits that are all going to kind of connect the dots together, and all just taking it up a notch has impacted it massively. And it's something that I'm really proud of as well. So when I go on the website, I'm like, this is nice. Oh yeah, I like this.
I like it.
Yeah, I love it. And it doesn't, I think there's sometimes that fear of like, oh, I know there's a broken link somewhere, or oh God, I need to go through that. I need to do another blog. I need to do this on it. There's a lot of pain points, I'd say, around websites, because it's the first thing people visit. So if it doesn't say the right thing, or something's out of date, or oh gosh, I need to do this, or I need to do, it can become this thing that you sort of slowly start to disconnect with. And actually, for me, having you there is a massive safety net, but also it brings me closer to it, because I know you've got it to a place where it works for me, where it's in line with my values, where it's it's singing from the rooftops what I do. And and that's really lovely and reassuring.
I don't it's kind of not meant to be obviously want to have to discuss around this. Obviously it's not meant to be about an episode about me, of course, but it seems like, because we've worked together so much, that's part of it. But I guess it's the purpose of this conversation really was to show other businesses what is possible, and how it is an iterative process, and how getting those foundations in place builds up. And obviously by the time you get to kind of really looking at some SEO, I mean, your business was really cool to work on, because calligraphy obviously is a very particular niche. So not everybody's going to have results like you did, because yours is very niche. We could target, you know, London and very particular terms. But I think one of the really important things that we looked at was actually the keyword research, and actually looking at what people are actually searching for, which is essentially where SEO starts, you know, with you really knowing your service, your ideal client, what they're looking for, and how can you join that together. And what was nice was seeing like just a change of a word could actually make quite a big difference in terms of the number of people that were searching for that and might come across you. And I think that was where we really kind of got some good wins, was actually looking at that language and the language that your clients and people that want to book your workshops are using to find you. I mean, I pulled a few stats just to kind of see kind of where we've come. Did you know that you are on page 1 of Google for 18 different keywords?
Amazing. I didn't.
And you're number 1. You are number 1 on Google for creative wellbeing workshops. You are the first result. I tested it and it was true.
Wow.
But yeah, and obviously Calligraphy London, Calligraphy Workshop London, they're all coming up there. So it shows, it's nice with that because there is data to support. That's why, you know, more inquiries have come through, or why you might have booked some more workshops. And overall new users from organic search over the last year is up 148%. So that just shows,
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
with getting some of those foundations in place, you know, what can happen.
And you know, I know looking back doesn't necessarily mean much, but I think it does reinforce that idea of taking action and just doing it. And I know that's not always possible, but if I was here now and not, you know, I still had that same website and I was still trying to make sense of it. I mean, I wouldn't be here now. It wouldn't be. I wouldn't be in the same space, because it wouldn't have propelled my business in the same direction in the same way. So I think, yeah, it's you know, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and all of those lovely things that you need to do as a small business owner, and knowing you're not doing it on your own. Yes, you've got to make that decision, you've got to take that step forward, but ultimately you're, you know, you're collaborating with people and going forward together. There's kind of more than one mind, and yeah, it's that's incredible. And I think it just shows as well, I don't know, it's quite exciting, isn't it, that people are finding you, that people, you know, you are creating a business and you're in that first page, and how many people are, you know, they're not all Googling Calligraphy London necessarily, but yeah, that's pretty incredible to have your business doing that. I think it's that energy, as I say, like I needed to pour all of my energy into the business, and this is one kind of statistical way of showing how, you know, really believing in a business and putting it forward and getting the right nuts and bolts in place can help do that. Like on paper, it's looking at like a success as well, which is really nice.
Yeah, which led you to being featured in the New York Times.
Oh, yeah. I know. And actually, you're absolutely right. So the journalist from New York Times, I got an email just before I left the house to go and deliver the workshop in Chiswick. And She said, I hope you don't mind. I've just booked a ticket for your workshop. I know it's really last minute, but I'm a journalist and I'm doing a piece on mindfulness and calligraphy. And I was like, what? Other people want to know about this? You're doing a whole piece on it? This is crazy. And she came along and she was an absolute delight and chatted to everybody and was very open about the fact that she was a journalist, and she was talking to them and getting lots of lovely quotes and getting into it with them and doing the calligraphy as well. So it was lovely. It was, I guess it's that sort of slight validation of, okay, this is interesting to other people. It's not just in my mind, or it's not just my personal journey, and I'm just trying to make everybody kind of climb on board and taste the same thing that I'm tasting. It is actually, you know, scientifically interesting, emotionally interesting. You know, it's all of those things, and for the right person, it's going to be the right tool, and hopefully something that is just going to make them feel that little bit better in their day. So yeah, the New York Times piece was very, very exciting. I was cool as a cucumber, by the way. I mean, she probably thought, gosh, this woman does not want me to write a piece about her. I was like, yeah, whatever, sure, yeah, I don't care, yeah, whatever. Yeah, if you need me, yeah, just call me. Yeah, the classic trying not to be totally excited, but really inside, I was like, oh my God, to be famous.
Oh, no, it's lovely. I think it's what's so lovely about what you do is that anyone can try it. And I love the way you kind of like, all you need is a pencil. Because I think a lot of people think of calligraphy as in like, you know, the old kind of like fountain pen style, you know, messy ink and, oh, I need to be really, you know, whatever to do it. But actually you're just like, no, some paper and a pencil actually is where you can start. And the type of brushes you use in that are kind of super easy to get used to. And that you don't need a whole setup.
No.
Which is what I loved about it, because obviously I love painting, and I definitely, you know, if we're going to talk about getting into flow, which is another big part of this episode, is that kind of creative energy and that creative flow. But that takes a lot of effort to, if you don't have your own studio, which I don't, sadly, not yet anyway. You know, like to set up something like an easel and paint, it takes a huge amount of work. Whereas with calligraphy, it's just like you can have your little folder, your pencil case, and you can kind of sit down, take it with you. I've taken it on holiday.
Yeah.
You know, it's so accessible, to give you that kind of, as you say, that kind of mindful moment.
It is. And I think another big reason I kind of champion it as a well-being tool, as something that you can have in your toolkit, is the fact that we need tools, we need these things to be accessible, to be sort of literally accessible, as in the convenience around doing something creative, around doing anything, is the same as going to the gym or doing anything physical. You know, if you've got to walk 3 miles to the gym, you probably put it off. If it's down the road, maybe you'll go. If you've got weights in your house, you'll probably do it more. You know, it's just having these things out. And for the most part, when I speak to people who maybe haven't done any calligraphy, or they go, oh, you do calligraphy, nearly everybody, I'd say 80% of people go, oh, I was given a calligraphy set. It's in a cupboard somewhere, or I've got a calligraphy pen and oh, I've never really used it. And I think it's just, you get these things and it's a lovely gift. It's, you know, it's a beautiful skill. It's something that is kind of feels out of reach when you're just starting. And I guess with any kind of craft or artistic medium, you've got to practice it. You've got to build it into some sort of regular practice without it being a chore. You know, you don't want it to become this like, okay, Mondays, right, I need to sit down and okay.
My calligraphy practice.
Yeah, I've got to do my calligraphy practice. But that's exactly why I started the club. So the Mindful Calligraphy Club is really for those people who love doing calligraphy. Like they love that creative outlet. They love that moment of creating something and doing the result of making something and drawing something. And maybe they've done a workshop before, or maybe they'd started to learn it. So they've sort of tipped over slightly into, oh, this is quite addictive in a healthy way. And maybe I'll get another pen. Oh, I love new stationery. You know, all of those lovely things that come out. And just pulling them all together and going, look, guys, we're all here together. Isn't this really nice? Let's all talk about how thick your printer paper is and which pen you've just bought and things like that. So it's having a little club space where not only can you connect, but you can also create and have that regular practice. So it's the accountability. It's very hard to sit down and be like, right, tonight I'm going to give myself the gift of time, and I'm not going to look at the washing up or the laundry on my to-do list or the life admin that I need to do. I'm going to sit here. It feels like a luxury. It's, you know, you've got to have massive amounts of motivation to do it and to ignore everything else. So having the monthly club allows people to come together. They've got that time booked in. And if they can't do it, they can do it, you know, they've got the replay, they've got the downloads, there's a motivation, but you're also doing it together. And then we've got the breakthrough clinics and things where people can ask all those really difficult questions again, which I think from a creative perspective, if you are somebody who thinks, and I don't know a single person who doesn't really say this, even the creative people, oh, I'm not very creative, or I can't do that, or I can't do this. So, you know, there's a lot of insecurity around putting pen to paper, paintbrush to paper or canvas, or, you know, getting stuck in with clay or pottery or knitting or, you know, embroidery or whatever it is. You know, you've got those self-doubts. You're like, oh, but that person's better, so I'll just stop. Or, oh, but, you know, I haven't done my 10,000 hours, so I'll never be good enough. And actually it's just about just starting and doing it and having fun with it and being curious and not critical, but seeing if you're in that space where you do want to improve, just taking those little nuggets of, oh, I could do that, improve that this way and change that this way. And doing that with other people is nearly always going to help propel you forward. So yeah, accessibility for sure. I love a pencil. Pencil calligraphy is lovely as well. So yeah, you don't need fancy pens to start. You don't need fancy pens to carry on with either. You know, calligraphy can be just for you, it can be for other people, or it can be a business. It's got many layers to it.
What I'm hearing is that I need to go out and buy more stationery.
I should come with a warning every time I start because ultimately I'm really here just to make sure that I'm not the only one buying new notebooks and hoarding pens. Which no one needs new pens. It's just there's
Don't
something.
they though?
Oh, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, thanks.
All the colours.
All the colours. Yeah. And it is exciting. It does make you want to get them out and play with them and see what they do. You know, that curiosity can really spark something in you, which at the very least, it's sort of not about you, it's about the pen. So when you buy something new, you're testing it out. You're not, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just going to see how it works. And then you're like, oh, that works like that. Oh, maybe I could do this. So it just gives you that stepping stone to kind of, start creating, do something, get in that flow.
Get in the flow. Lee, have you got any?
When you were talking, Laura, so when you were talking about your business and then talking about calligraphy, I think the themes that came through quite strongly for me was that sort of community thing of not doing things by yourself. whether it's because of motivation, whether it's because of not being able to get the clarity and perspective that you need on your own. And also play, and the idea of play. So you had the whole sort of testing period in your business and seeing, oh, do I like that? Do they like that? Is this a good offering? Is that a good offering? And then kind of that, what you've just been saying there about, well, it's not really me, it's the pen. Let's see what the pen does. I think there's a lot of overlap there between those themes.
Yeah. And actually not intentionally bringing it back to flow, but actually hearing you summarize that made me think, in all those cases, you know, having other people with you and being playful is really the thing that can get you into that flow. So, you know, me going to that workshop, or me being able to talk to people about my mental health, or me being able to connect with other people who like calligraphy, or me meeting Sammy through a program full of other people, you know, it is all about community. It is all about sharing our stories and connecting and it's on a level that unlocks something and makes you fall into that flow and that fluidity, which gets you going, yeah, no, I am on the right path. Yeah, no, I am doing the right thing here. And I think, you know, that year where I was testing and trying all sorts of things, I needed to do that to kind of, you know, get it all out of my system and realize that I was trying lots of things for other people, which ultimately is who I'm serving. They're my audience, they're my customers, they're my clients. But what I found was the ones that really worked were the ones that I really, really enjoyed doing and felt aligned and in flow with what I wanted to do with my business. So once I could kind of remove some of those things that kind of ticked boxes, and maybe I was sort of trying to replicate what other people were doing because they seemed to be making a huge success of their calligraphy business and they were doing these workshops, maybe I should be doing them. And actually that's what they're doing, and that's fine. There's space for all of us, and I don't need to compete with them. I need to do what I do in the way that I do it, because people are coming to me for me in my business, obviously the calligraphy, but there are hundreds of teachers out there. And if I'm not in flow with who I am and I'm not showing that, then it's not going to appeal to other people. Yeah, so definitely a huge part is community. And that connection piece is one of my core values. And I think with the playfulness, that's, you know, that's the heart of creativity, isn't it? That's where we can all realize just how creative we are. You know, when I hear someone say, I'm not creative, I just want to say to them, when you first woke up this morning, how did you decide what you were going to wear? How did you decide what you were going to eat? How did you decide which way you were going to go, walk? All of these things. It doesn't have to be creativity in the most visual form. It could be just a creative mindset, just realizing that you are thinking creatively all the time. Nearly every single thought has some creative element to it, whether it is the anxiety talking and going, well, what if this and what if that and what if that? Oh, that's a creative thought. Most of the time my thoughts are all imaginary. But it's being okay with that and accepting it and finding the lighter side of it. Otherwise, you know, the serious sides of life can really grind us down and sweep over. So yeah, I think unlocking some of that creative side, using playfulness, you know, and if you need help, grab a child, because they know exactly, not in a weird way, but oh god, that bit needs to be edited out.
I'll leave that in.
Child and the parents before you grab them.
Yeah. Because they know how to play is really what I was trying to say. You know, the rest of us, all us, you know, adults have had creative side or the creative awareness slightly sucked out of us. And I think it's just about going, it's still there. I just need to switch it on. And actually, we're all creative in different ways, and it doesn't have to be calligraphy. It doesn't have to be a visual art form. It could be musical. It could be movement. It could be story writing, poetry, or whatever.
Yeah, sorry.
Or whatever you want. I don't care.
I think the playfulness is we're all kind of taught to conform, aren't we, as we get older and become adults, and it's quite hard to actually undo that and kind of start drawing outside the lines again.
Yeah.
Kind of to draw it, you know, to colour in the lines, and then we have to sort of
and be on time and be in the right place and make the right decisions and do your job absolutely correctly and cannot fail. And you know, and you wonder why people go, you know, get really stressed when something doesn't look perfect. And I think in a digital age where we are sort of met with lots of beautiful fonts and typography and branding and amazing things, calligraphy is kind of it's showing you there's a way of creating those with a human touch and reminding us that, you know, something created by hand has incredible uniqueness to it that cannot be replicated by a computer or by something digital in the same way. You know, the way I'm breathing in one moment and creating a word or a letter will never be recreated again, because I won't be in that same environment with the same thoughts and the same feelings and the breathing in the same way, with the same light and, you know, all of those things. So there'll be micro differences, even if I was desperately trying to create exactly the same piece over and over again. And that's beautiful. You know, a river will never flow the same way, all sorts of things, you know, the wind won't blow the same way. And being able to understand that when you're creating something by hand, that is what's so special. It's like a little time capsule of that moment. And being able to share that with other people is beautiful, but you don't have to. No pressure, but it's of huge value to those who love what you do.
Yeah, embrace the wobbles.
Embrace the wobbles. I'm telling you, I'm going to get it on a t-shirt.
You should.
I say it probably, that's probably one of the lines that I say the most. I'll just get a list of all things and then I'll just walk around pointing at my back.
Yeah. Don't forget to breathe on the front and
Embrace the wobbles on the back. Yeah.
Well, you might get some strange approaches though.
Yeah, not you. Don't you embrace it. Yeah.
I just love what you're saying there about it capturing the moment and that handmade element. And Sammy, I know you bring that into a lot of your design as well, because you are an artist at heart too. And I just love listening to the two of you talk about that, because, you know, I'm big on the human element of stuff as well, although mine doesn't come through in that expression of creativity. But I think there's we are seeing a big shift towards making stuff more digital and getting the computers to do stuff for us. And we as humans still need that hands-on, tactile, actually doing things ourselves for our own sanity.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I think it's not about one or the other as well. You know, I use an iPad in my work. I with an Apple Pencil. I absolutely love things like Canva. I think, you know, there's such kind of synchronicity with words and copywriting and getting that message through. Visually, in terms of kind of seeing it written down and reading it, but also audibly hearing it and understanding it and digesting it. And I think they've all got those same connections. So, you know, your brain connecting to your hand, connecting to the pen, connecting to the paper, and the same with reading. You know, you've got to absorb it, you've got to digest it and understand it. And that can change as well. So you being able to create copy for somebody doesn't mean that will be what they present, their course, their website, their, you know, everything in forever. It will be fluid, it will change, it will flow. And I think understanding there's a sense of adaptability that comes with business is really important. And, you know, moving with things and not kind of going, oh God, I can't do that because it's out of reach, or oh no, AI has come in and it's, you know, oh God, COVID's hit and we've got a lockdown and I can't teach those people outside. It's sort of saying, okay, what else is going on, and being in tune. So, you know, just as much as I was saying, you know, you've got to be in tune with who you are, and that gives you the kind of sense of flow in your business. But I think also as an external experience as well, there's, and I focus a lot on the kind of seasonal side of using the seasons as a theme to kind of bring calligraphy through, because it's a beautiful way of connecting. You know, that's the other kind of side of connection. It's the inner side, it's connecting with others, it's also connecting with environments and kind of paying attention. That's the mindfulness of, okay, where are we? Why am, you know, you're not going to be doing, well, you might be doing Christmas things in the middle of summer, but you're, you know, it's bringing that into your world. And I guess it's enhancing that creative experience for you and for everybody else. So
yeah. And I think those sort of things are probably only become more important, that we need to be more mindful of taking stock of things and, you know, what season we're in. I mean, the more our world speeds up, the more it feels like time is going even quicker, even though it's the same time. And I think, yeah, like you were talking about before, like being grounded, those things grounding you, I think we're going to kind of need to keep tapping into that, while everything else just feels like it's kind of mad whizzing by. And then you say the seasons change and you're like, oh, didn't, you know, kind of don't even notice sometimes what's going on. And
I mean, I've been in kind of April for the last 3 months, so you know, it's rich coming from me. But I do think there's a sense of this whole idea of slowing down that came through from my very first workshop. And literally, I mean, I feel sorry for the teacher, because all she said to me was slow down. Every time I was like, I'm not quite slow down. This isn't quite slow down. And I just kept thinking, but I am going slowly, until I realized I wasn't. And there's this little kind of gear change that you can see when people do the workshops with me, where they're going, you know, some people they just can't. They're on a speeding, you know, there's just a pace in their life that is kind of propelling them forward in that way. And then there's others that can kind of just start to ease off that kind of hamster wheel. And I think that moment where they start to set that pace, and they've just started to kind of break through into the kind of calmer waters, it's so lovely to see. And you can see they've just gone kind of into their own world. Their breathing is slower, and what they're creating, I think it's just giving them that space to kind of see what they're doing as well on the paper, rather than going right next, you know, there's no attention being spent on it when you're going fast. It's very hard to see what you're doing or give it any kind of thought, whether it's this is nice, this isn't nice. It's just kind of moving through the motions. So yeah, I think there's this lovely flow state which triggers when you start to slow down. And again, calligraphy, not to, you know, go on about calligraphy too much, but calligraphy can give you that as well.
Does I bet people like float out of your classes, come in kind of a bit uptight off the tube or off the bus or wherever, just come out the office and then like float away at the end.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's how I see them in my mind. And for the most part, it's true. You will always get some people who, you know, it's like coaching sessions, isn't it? They need probably a little bit more work, but and there's always often one who really gets, or maybe a few actually, who get really, really stifled, that real kind of frustration at the beginning where, you know, they're going outside the lines or it's not really working. And so their sense of accomplishment has completely shut down. You know, they're trying something new and I just want to get it done and I just want to be really good at it and it's not happening and I don't feel calmer, I feel more stressed, you know, you can see it's like, oh God, it's
oh, whoa.
yeah. This isn't what I meant. And then you give them a few little kind of tools to work with and break it down a little bit more and give them just one thing to focus on. Because often at the beginning, it's like, right, do this, don't forget to breathe. And also do this, this, and this, and don't forget to breathe. Yeah, so it can be a lot for it to all kind of sink in, but it gets there. People get there. It's good.
I went to a jewelry making workshop last year and did exactly the thing with the it's not working.
And it's gonna happen.
Yeah. But I don't think that one, for me, that one is just too irritating.
Yeah.
But calligraphy sounds much more accessible.
Yeah, have I persuaded you?
Yeah, I think totally, I'm in.
It's knowing that I think sort of knowing that you're not going to be you know, immediately brilliant at it, but also seeing the progress as you go. So, you know, it is something that takes practice. But you can get the techniques kind of under your belt in a 90-minute workshop and be able to kind of take those with you. It just it needs a level of probably kind of compassion, I think, that we all really, really struggle with. I'd say patience, but actually it's not really patience. You can write something in calligraphy fairly quickly. And I think that's why I like it so much. Coming from a family of artists who, you know, painstakingly sit there for hours and weeks painting and making things by hand, I just think, I don't know how, I'm not sure I belong in this family. But then you realize not every creative activity is the same, and actually, yeah, just creating these lines and shapes and strokes and breaking it down into something enjoyable and digestible. Again, that's sort of, you know, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me now. It kind of made sense to me at the beginning, but now it's just part of who I am.
Beautiful.
And so if anyone wanted, any of our listeners, well, I think they're all going to want to, but if any of our listeners want to join one of your online workshops, how often do you run those?
So I do seasonal resets, which is a nice kind of introduction to calligraphy, but using a kind of creative mindset activities as well. So those are seasonal. So the next one is in autumn. And those are all online and with replays and downloadable workbooks and all the lovely things. And they can be done with just a pencil. So if you're new to calligraphy, those are probably a good place to start in terms of online workshops. I then have the Mindful Calligraphy Club, which is a subscription. So it's a monthly membership for those who maybe have tried calligraphy before or have done a little bit or have done lots and just want that regular practice and a place where they can come and geek out about new stationery and pens. And yeah, again, there's a lovely kind of members hub, which Sammy's helped me create, and all the access to downloadable worksheets and tutorials and goodies. And then in terms of other workshops, there's obviously the in-person ones that I do monthly in Chiswick, and then I have kind of standalone ones like collaborating with a mandala artist. So we're doing a retreat this summer, and then just a day retreat, but combining the two art forms, and woodblock printing and calligraphy. So not to say calligraphy is just the perfect thing for everything, but it does go well with lots of things. Like I've done a whiskey tasting. Yeah, talking of whiskey as well, I've done a whiskey tasting with a brand who wanted to bring in a kind of calligraphy creative element with their whiskey.
Amazing.
Way up the street.
Yeah, I know. I suddenly realised the whiskey connection. But yeah, sparkle and script. So, you know, Prosecco and lovely sparkling wines and wine tasting. But yeah, I do quite a few different public workshops and group workshops. And then obviously if people have companies and are looking to have some sort of wellbeing event or something that ties into their kind of program of events throughout the year for staff or employees, then I run those as well. And if people that need calligraphy,
yeah, you've done some good PR events.
Yeah, stuff. So creating the actual calligraphy for dinners, philanthropy events, product launches, activations where people are going into a shop and buying a brand new product that's just come in, and then they get a free gift bag or something that goes along with it, but it's personalized by me, which are really lovely to do. It gets me doing the calligraphy as well as the teaching, which I like both sides really.
And you've got your free download, the one, so we'll put a link to that in the notes. If people want to just kind of dip their toe in and get started, then that's probably the best way for them to start.
Definitely. And that can be just with a pencil as well. So if you've got a brush pen, great, but if you have any other pen, crayon, you don't even need a pencil. Whatever you've got to hand. So the Calming Calligraphy Workbook is there for anybody who just wants to try. And then there's a resources page as well with a couple of other things on there, calligraphy themed, obviously. It's an honor to work with Sammy, and also delight to be on your podcast and be part of your world. It's great.